College Game Day is brought to you by the new 1999 TL, Luxury Performance, Pick 2, and by Nike.
Big 12 coaches will tell you that Nebraska, until this year, has been so invulnerable because there's so many things you have to do when you play them in a big game. You have to match their talent. Well, now Kansas State can do that. You have to match them in intensity. The Wildcats promised to do that. You have to match them in wrinkles, and Osborne's staff always saves something for big games. And the toughest of all, you have to match Nebraska's big game execution. They play so well in big games. For Kansas State today, obviously, everybody here knows it. Everybody in Lincoln knows it. The key is number 7, Michael Bishop. Steve Cyphers, he has got to play the game of his life, perhaps, but do so without thinking about having to play the game of his life.
Chris, you're right. You know, last year, a couple of weeks before the season, Bill Snyder made a decision based on how it would affect 98 and not 97. He decided to start Michael Bishop at quarterback, even though he wasn't ready. He was a junior college transfer, didn't go through spring ball, but Snyder thought he could learn on the job, and he knew one thing for certain: Michael Bishop's a winner. He started 24 games at Blinn Junior College in Texas, and he won every one of them. At Kansas State, he's won all but one. As a college quarterback, Michael Bishop is 44-1.
Do you think more about the 44 or more about the 1?
I think more about the 1. If anybody ever said anything to me, you know, they ask me, you know, who's their first loss to, I'm always saying Nebraska. I'm always thinking about that game. And, you know, it's something that I carry with me for the rest of my life.
It was his 4th game as a Wildcat, and Bishop was off. 8 completions in 24 attempts, 2 interceptions. But get this.
That Nebraska game was a high point of my career at Kansas State because, you know, for the first time, you know, I was in a situation where I was down by a lot of points, and I knew I didn't want to give up.
He just kept competing and kept playing, and that's the thing that you can respect.
You know, it was just a situation that I'd never been in before. So I was trying to react the way that I felt that I needed to react.
His post-game reaction was to suggest that some of his teammates had quit.
He said some things that he didn't really understand what he was saying to the magnitude that he was involved in because he'd never been there before.
You know, the first couple of games, you know, I was just going with the flow, trying to fit in. But, you know, after the loss against Nebraska, I felt like that, you know, it was my time to step up. I was speaking up in meetings. And from then on, you know, everybody started listening to me.
He was vocal in his opinion of what went wrong, and I think that's all been part of his maturity, understanding how to play this position, not only on the field, but off the field and how you lead.
I feel like I'm the type of player where I let my emotions, you know, guide me through the game.
Emotion is as much of Bishop's game as that strong arm that can throw a ball 93 yards, or that 6'1", 205-pound body that prefers to challenge tacklers, not to avoid them.
Well, we hold hands in the huddle, and when he gets intense, he kind of squeezes my hand. I'm right next to him, so I feel it.
When he gets fired up, it seems our team plays a lot better. He gets out there, and he makes a ton of things happen.
You know, that helps us sometimes, and sometimes it can be a double-edged sword.
I just corral Michael sometimes when he's getting out of his game. I just settle him down, pat him on the hip, and tell him to play.
His emotion may be the one thing that can stop Bishop. His only interception this season came against Colorado, the only game in '98 in which he didn't complete a touchdown pass.
As far as emotion, I think I may have been too high for that game. And, you know, I went out early in the game and, you know, made some crucial mistakes.
He was so ready for that game, so emotionally tuned into that game on competing, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. But from the quarterback standpoint, competition and emotion, there has to be a balance there.
Bishop concurs, says he learned from that Colorado experience. But now comes Nebraska. Now comes the most important game in Kansas State history.
If you lose to somebody, you always keep it in the back of your mind that, you know, I'm not going to let you beat me twice. That's going to make me go out this Saturday and play the best game I ever played in my life.
The environment, the exposure, the fact that we lost to them last year, this was his one loss, it'll be interesting to see how Michael will respond.
What's your guess?
My guess? I think Michael's going to be fine.
One more point to make about Bishop's growth as a quarterback. Last season, prior to the Fiesta Bowl, he got what he called his spring ball. 16 days of cramming, studying film, learning the offense. Look at the difference. Look at the numbers to see what a difference that period made. Percentage completion, up a dozen points. Look at the touchdowns to the interceptions. Huge improvement. And Chris, look at that. Almost 90 yards more per game throwing the ball.
That's a lot of numbers, but it's very dramatic, Steve. Nebraska fans watch the plays they run for Bishop. They think they borrowed him from Nebraska's playbook. I don't know if he's loose or not. He opened that playbook for us yesterday. Relax, Coach. He wasn't showing us anything. They just wanted us to autograph it. I don't know if that's a good sign or not.
You know what? There are so many areas that Kansas State has an advantage over Nebraska in this football game. It's hard to pick just one. The area that Nebraska really needs to be concerned about are their cornerbacks, Erwin Sweeney and Ralph Brown, going up against Michael Bishop and his talented wide receivers. Aaron Lockett, in the last 5 of his 6 last games, has had at least 1 catch of over 40 yards. Averages over 25 yards a catch. Darnell McDonald, Mr. Reliable, leads the team with 51 catches. On 3rd downs, keep an eye on him. Now, if Bishop breaks contain, Nebraska will be in big trouble because those corners cannot stay with those wide receivers.
To beat Nebraska, Kansas State's defense must stop the Nebraska option. And the key player there is Jared Cooper, the strong safety, free safety. Number 40 comes up, watch the stick, boom. He also can react, Cooper can, to the pass interception right here. Now, Kansas State's defense ranks #1 in scoring defense, and if they don't get intimidated by that helmet, they should contain Nebraska's offense.
A lot more thoughts. We'll have predictions on this game in just a second, as well as other games around the country. But right now, we send you to a Big Ten preview. Wisconsin and Michigan in the Big House. Northwestern and Penn State about to play in the Deuce. Let's go to Dave Barnett and Bill Curry in Ann Arbor for a preview. We're coming back.
Thanks, Chris. Today, the Wisconsin Badgers arrive knowing they control their own destiny. A win today and the Big Ten championship and at least a spot in the Rose Bowl are theirs. Waiting in defense, the University of Michigan. After an 0-2 start this season, head coach Lloyd Carr went back to the basics, and that starts with defense. After the Notre Dame game, the nation's #1 D a season ago was ranked a less than impressive 96th in total defense. After finishing the month of September, the rank had climbed to 72nd. After October, the improvement was even more evident, a more than respectable rank of 14. Factoring in last week's performance against Penn State, the Wolverines now rank 11th in total defense, an 85-place improvement over Week 1. Today, though, poses a physical challenge to Big Ten's top rushing attack, fueled by the conference's leading rusher, Ron Day. Chris, to the winner, at least a piece of the Big Ten championship awaits. Back to you in Manhattan.
Dave, thank you. We look forward to that one. Meanwhile, welcome back to a KSU Stadium. It has been a lot of fun. If you're just joining us on ESPN2, where have you been? We'll get to the big game in just a second. That's what these folks want to hear. But first, break down today in the Big Ten.
Well, I think Michigan is a team that's going to win a football game today. They're playing very well. Lloyd Carr is 8-0 as a head coach at Michigan against top 10 teams. I like Michigan. I like Tennessee with too much overall team speed against Arkansas. And I think Missouri's going to go down to Kyle Field and upset Texas A&M with that opportunistic defense.
I think Purdue's Drew Brees sets a record and keeps going for the Heisman next year. And Tulane, yes, Tulane scores 40 and remains unbeaten and beats Army.
You're going to keep on keeping on with the Green Wave. And you're talking about next year's Heisman Trophy already.
Yes, already.
Let's talk about the game of the day right here in Manhattan, Kansas now. Nebraska walked on here yesterday and trying to take the attitude that they have nothing to lose. They are loose. Can they pull it off? Meanwhile, for Kansas State, we've talked about it, the mental factors in this game. The end of this drought. There's a Tostitos Fiesta Bowl blimp hovering above this stadium right here. It was a source of interest for the Nebraska players. They saw that and thought, maybe that's counting their chickens before they are hatched. Kansas State players want it so badly. We'll have to see how they're challenged, guys. They haven't had a come-from-behind second-half win since '95. What if they're put in that position?
Well, Kansas State has been the most dominant team in college football this year. They're killing everybody. They have great athletes. They should destroy Nebraska. Come on, English. But Kansas State has waited 12 months for this opportunity. Instead of people saying, can you win this game, they're saying, how bad are you going to kill Nebraska? Expect the unexpected. Nebraska upsets Kansas State.
Boo! Boo! How in the world can you pick Nebraska?
You're a Kansas State team. What are you going with this time?
Uh-oh.
Willie the Wildcat! Willie the Wildcat in a big win! Go Kansas State!
Lee Corso says Big Red is dead. Let the purple rain begin. Kirk, you got some dates for this afternoon. You got 4 guys who will not want to leave your side. It's been great. It's been fun from Manhattan. We thank you for watching. Big Ten football is up next on ESPN. Wisconsin and Michigan from the Big House.